friends of the program, I'm pleased to say, Warren Moon. How are you, Warren?
I'm great, Rich. How you doing today?
Well, I wanted to reach out to you after the show yesterday. Like, who can we get to talk about these subjects? And I've got Albert Breert handled the news, and the nuts and legal bolts were handled by Gabe Feldman. Now I turn to you, Hall of Fame quarterback. What do you think of all this, Warren?
Which one are we talking about? There's a lot of stuff going on.
I guess
are we talking about
Brady.
Tom Brady?
Yeah, let's talk about Brady. Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, I think it's a very unfortunate situation for Tom, for the New England Patriots, and just for the league in general, just to have something like this kind of rearing its head, right here at the start of the season, the start of the 2015 season. Tom's been one of the great ambassadors for this game, one of the great competitors, and to be caught up in something like this, it's just really unfortunate. But, they've done their investigation, and they feel like, I think the biggest part of this investigation was that they feel like Tom withheld evidence and didn't cooperate with the process, and I think that's what he's mainly being penalized for, because the penalty for tampering with the footballs is not that big. I think it's a $25,000 fine that could have been taken care of months ago if it was admitted to, but because of all the other things that have happened since then, the destroying of the phone, so the NFL says, and that, I think that's why the penalty came down so hard. Tom is fighting it vehemently, which he should if he feels like he's telling the truth. And here we are. We're at a stalemate, and it's unfortunate that we got to start the season with this on the line, and that's what's all going to be talked about when we go into that first game and the kickoff game with the New England Patriots and the Pittsburgh Steelers, is Tom Brady being suspended.
Well, do you think he's a cheater, Warren, based on everything you've heard and read?
Rich, I wish every quarterback was able to use the balls just the way they want them to be, and I don't think it's that big a deal. I think every quarterback likes their balls done a certain way. I was the same way. I didn't like brand new balls out of the box. You've heard Aaron Rodgers talk about he likes his overinflated. Tom likes his probably a little bit less. I'm not sure of that. But I don't think it's that big a deal when it comes down to it. But if the balls were inspected before the game like they always are, which is part of the procedure, and the officials looked at the balls and said they were okay, and then something else was done to those balls after the fact, then that means there was some cheating going on. Now, did that happen? I'm not sure, but that's what the NFL is claiming happened.
But does that make sense, though, just knowing what it takes to prepare for a game as a quarterback? You've got the AFC Championship on the line, and you're spending a moment thinking, okay, are they taking a pin to the football to make sure that they're the way I like? I mean, is that even possible to be in the mindset of an all-pro future Hall of Fame quarterback, Warren?
The balls are very important to a quarterback. The grip of the football is very important. You see different quarterbacks wear gloves. Other quarterbacks don't wear gloves. There's a reason they do that. They want as good a grip on that football so they can throw the ball as well as they possibly can. So, yes, it is something that would be on your mind if it's something that you worry about. I'm going to tell you something that I used to worry about. I have a fingernail on my forefinger of my throwing hand. If that fingernail was at the right length, my ball spun like I wanted it to spin. If it wasn't at that length, I worried about it. So just little things like that quarterbacks do worry about going into football games, and I'm sure this was part of the thinking here.
Well, in the echelon of Hall of Fame quarterbacks, of which you are one, do you think Tom Brady, when he joins that echelon, should be viewed any differently based on what's happening right now?
No, I don't. I think his body of work stands for itself. I think this is something that probably shouldn't have escalated to this point. I thought with the league, with Roger Goodell, with the relationship he has with Robert Kraft and the player that's involved in this, it seems like there could have been some resolution that would have made this a lot simpler. But I don't think Tom's legacy will be interrupted in any way because of this.
Hall of Famer Warren Moon joining me here on the program. All right, let's talk about the quarterback that's right there in your world, and the Seattle Seahawks, for whom you are the radio analyst. What do you think's happening with Russell Wilson and the contract talks with the Seahawks right now, Warren?
Well, I'm hoping they're trying to get something done. We're coming down to D-Day here, and when I say D-Day, that just means a date that either Russell or the team put out there that they're going to stop negotiating. That doesn't mean you can't still negotiate after training camp starts, but this is what they've kind of put as a deadline. And I think most deals don't get done unless you have some type of deadline put down. That's what kind of puts the pressure on both sides to get something done. But if it doesn't get done, then we keep playing. And Russell's already said he'll play this year at the $1.54 million that he's supposed to play on the fourth year of his contract. But what you don't want to do with a quarterback, Rich, is you don't want to mess with his mind. You don't want to tear him down. And Russell's a guy that is all in on this football team right now. He's 200% in, and you don't want to start to diminish that at that position, because that's the most important position in pro sports as far as team sports are concerned. And you want to keep that guy's mind fresh. You want to keep him happy, and that's why you see all these other quarterbacks. They've had extensions done well before training camp has started, and Russell should be done by now.
So, but if he wants to be happy by being paid the best as the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, do you think that's what the Seahawks should do?
I don't think he wants to just be the highest paid quarterback, because as soon as he signs, Eli Manning's going to sign, and then Andrew Luck is going to sign, and then Aaron Rodgers is going to ask for another extension, and then Phillip Rivers is going to get a contract. All these guys are going to go jetting over him. So I don't think that's it. It's just where he is on the echelon of quarterbacks and what everybody else has been paid up under him, say Cam Newton and some of the other guys. He just wants to be paid in that area, and then everything else will fall in place after that. So
what's the holdup? We're hearing that he wants fully guaranteed or more guarantees because his agent is a baseball guy and he's trying to put a baseball template on a football contract. What are you hearing, Warren?
I'm hearing that his guarantees aren't as big as Cam Newton's, and he'd like to have it at least that high or more. And the Seahawks have a certain structure of how they guarantee their contracts, and they don't want to break their structure. So I understand both sides of the argument. But I also understand Russell, and being one of the top quarterbacks in the league, at least in the top 10, that he wants to be paid like other quarterbacks that have been paid. But again, it's going to come down to whether the Seahawks want to break that structure or not.
Warren Moon, Hall of Famer, joining me here on the program. All right, now let's get to the Hall of Fame stance on not allowing a speech given on behalf of somebody who is being inducted posthumously. I mean, Warren, you gave a speech. You gave an eloquent speech. It's all about the speeches, but you've also sat through some very long ceremonies and know what the Hall is trying to do in terms of move people forward. All that said, where do you stand on what's happening with Junior Seau's daughter and family in the Hall right now, Warren?
Well, I think it all depends on what was said in the beginning and what is being adhered to now. I think the rule that they put in place in 2010 was that no player that has passed away is going to be allowed. No one will speak on his behalf. He'll have somebody present him via video, but he will not have somebody that speaks on his behalf. So they put that in place in 2010 mainly to try and cut down on the length of the ceremony, because it's become, like you said, so long. And Les Richter, who went in a few years ago, had to succumb to that same type of protocol. So they're using that same protocol this year for Junior, and it's unfortunate if he was told something different, or if his family was told something different in the first place, and then it's changed. But if that's the way it's been all along, then that's the rule, and it's unfortunate they won't be able to speak at the podium.
So people think the rule should be changed. Where do you and maybe some of your other Hall of Fame comrades stand on that subject, Warren?
There could probably be a compromise. Maybe you do it for first ballot Hall of Famers. Guys that make it on the first ballot, they're allowed to have someone speak. I don't know. There's got to be some type of compromise in there. Again, the reason why they're doing this is to try and cut down on the length. If the guys would cut down on the length of their speeches, I don't think this would have even been put into play. But they were trying to do whatever they could, just like baseball is trying to cut down on the amount of hours of a baseball game is by cutting down the pitchers and what they go through and what the batters go through. The NFL, the Pro Football Hall of Fame is trying to do the same thing with the speeches, but there's no question every family wants to have their loved one acknowledged, and they want to do it in a classy way and be able to talk about the career of their dad. And I understand that side of it as well. So something has to be done, and hopefully something can be done. And I don't know if it'll happen this year, but hopefully as we go forward, they can change that rule.
Yeah, but lastly on that too, Warren, I mean, the Hall of Fame, they tell all the inductees, let's try and keep it as brief as possible.
Right.
Okay?
They do. They told me that. And I know I went a little bit over, but I didn't go as far over as a lot of other guys have.
So, but how do how do you fix that? What can be done about that, or should anything be done about that, Warren?
You know, it's just a hard thing to say. You don't know what a guy is going to do when he goes up there. He might have all the intentions, just like I did, of going up there and staying within the amount of time. But you get up there and your emotions, you know, are at their highest pitch. This is one of the most important weekends of your life when you're up there, and you don't want to forget anybody, and things happen, and emotions take over, and you tend to talk a little bit longer than you definitely expected. Even when guys that have speeches written, it goes a little bit longer. So I don't know. I really don't know what the cure is, Rich, because you're talking about an emotional time when a guy gets up on that podium in front of his family, all of his friends, his coaches, ex-players, and that, and just stuff comes out.
Are you going next week? You'll be there?
I'm there every year. I'm on the board, and
Love it.
I make sure I'm there every year.
Warren, thanks. We'll see you next week then.
All right, Rich, take care.
You bet. That's Warren Moon at WMoon1.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.